The Crooked Anchor and the Not-So-Secret Car Boot. Morning broke softly over the village. The kind of grey sky that suggested rain was merely thinking about it. Inside the Crooked Anchor, it was unusually quiet. Too quiet, as David would later come to realise with a rising sense of unease. Clifford was absent again, presumably fermenting something he shouldn't, and so the kitchen was left in the hands of Warren, who was deep in philosophical battle with the pub's ancient toaster. "So, do I put the bread in the toaster?" he asked, already sweating. "Yes, Warren," David replied, checking inventory behind the bar. "That's generally how toast is made." "It just feels too simple," Warren said, furrowing his brow and inserting the slice like it might detonate. Meanwhile, Pete sat in his usual corner, not touching his eternal pint, but instead staring at his wristwatch with the intensity of a man waiting for an event that hadn't been announced. Every few minutes he'd glance up, look at the door, then back at the watch. "You all right, Pete?" David asked. Pete didn't look up. Soon. That was all he said. That was all he ever said, really. It wasn't until David went to wipe down the dartboard that he noticed it was missing. In its place was a slightly darker square of wall and a single drawing pin. "Odd," he muttered. A quick sweep of the pub revealed further absences. 2 bar stools, 3 coasters, a framed picture of Brian from 1987 sulking in front of a roast dinner, and the "Please mind your head" sign that had always failed to prevent Clifford from concussing himself. David frowned. Something was off. He followed his instincts and a trail of muddy footprints to the back door, which opened onto the gravel car park. There, in full swing, was Uncle Raymond's car boot extravaganza, hosted from the boot of a rust-coloured Ford Sierra that probably hadn't moved since Thatcher was in power. Raymond, wearing one of David's old ties as a belt, stood proudly among an assortment of items clearly pilfered from the pub. "Tea towel, 25p. Used, loved, blessed by ale," he called to a bewildered elderly couple holding a bar stool between them. "Raymond!" David stormed over. "You're selling the pub!" Raymond shrugged. "It's not like anyone's using the coasters, David. This is asset redistribution. That's the fire exit sign. No one's exited through it in years." A man wandered up holding the dartboard. "How much for this?" "It's not for sale," David barked. Raymond leaned in, confidential. £2 and I'll throw in a knife with no handle." Sold. Back inside, the toaster popped violently and ejected a perfectly blackened rectangle of sorrow onto the floor. Warren stared at it in awe. "I made a biscuit." Pete stood suddenly. Still staring at his watch, he made for the door, opened it exactly as a postman jogged by with a sandwich, then sat back down. "Right," he said. That was the full explanation. David returned to the bar, defeated. Brian, now nursing Gunther the Great Dane's absence, off at dog therapy, entered and looked around. "Something feels spacious." "Raymond sold half the furniture," David muttered, pouring a pint. Pete raised his glass slightly. "Good trade." And so another not-so-normal day passed at the Crooked Anchor, where the toast was philosophical, the furniture was mobile, and Raymond's entrepreneurial spirit was only limited by what he could sneak out the back door.